High in the windswept mountains of Mongolia, where the sky seems endless and the snow never melts, there is a story whispered by herders and travelers alike of a demon so fierce and cunning that even the bravest villagers dare not speak its name out loud, for fear it might hear them. They say it hides among the peaks and valleys, waiting for those who wander too far from safety, and that its eyes glow like molten fire in the dead of night. No one knows where it came from or why it lingers, but every footprint left behind in the snow could be the last, and every shadow could conceal its presence. This is the untold legend of the mountain demon that haunts Mongolia, and the chilling tales passed down through generations that warn all who enter its domain. Before starting, subscribe to our channel, then drop a comment of your experience. Far beyond the busy towns and dusty plains of Mongolia, there rise jagged mountains that scrape the clouds and seem to stretch into infinity. The herders who tend their flocks in these remote highlands have long spoken of shadows that move where no wind blows, and whispers that drift over the valleys when the night is still. They tell of a demon whose presence is felt rather than seen, and who waits silently for travelers who dare stray from the beaten path. The people of these lands have always lived close to nature, and they understand that the mountains are not just stone and snow, but living entities with moods and memories. That is why when a traveler disappears or a herd goes missing, they do not search in vain. They look for signs that the mountain demon has passed. By day, the peaks seem serene and welcoming, with sunlight turning the snow into a dazzling white. But by night, the same mountains transform into a labyrinth of terror, where the moonlight touches the crags. There is an eerie glow that no one can explain, and the air carries a weight that presses down on the chest of any who enter. It is said that the demon is ancient, older than any village, older than the written word, and perhaps born from the anger of the mountains themselves. Those who have survived encounters describe a shape that cannot be fully seen, a presence that chills the blood, and a sound like grinding stone that rises from nowhere. The demon does not strike without reason or randomly. It tests the courage of those who roam too far and punishes greed and disrespect. The herders believe it is a guardian, in a sense a spirit of the mountains that cannot be understood by ordinary minds. Children are warned never to wander alone, and even the bravest hunters choose paths that hug the valleys instead of climbing higher than the clouds. The demon legend is not just a tale of fear, but also a lesson in humility for humans who would challenge the vastness of the natural world. The wind carries stories over generations, and every new family learns of the shadows in the mountains. Even strangers who pass through the highlands are told in hushed tones to respect the land and to never tempt the eyes of the unseen. A shepherd recounts his encounter sitting by a fire as the cold night grips him. He tells how he saw footprints that led nowhere and how the sound of laughter echoed between cliffs with no one in sight. The laughter was high and sharp, and it froze his blood. He knew then that the mountain was alive in a way that could not be tamed or reasoned with. The demon moves like a shadow, but its presence is undeniable to those who sense the energies of the earth. It is patient, waiting for the weak moment when a traveler's courage falters or when arrogance blinds a hunter. The legend says that the demon does not always attack physically. Sometimes it plays tricks on the mind, bending reality, making travelers see visions that lure them deeper into danger. Some have returned changed, speaking in riddles or showing signs of madness because they saw too much or understood too little. The elders say that the mountains themselves are a reflection of the demon's mood, and that storms are its way of expressing. Anger, rain, and hail are warnings, and sudden mists are opportunities for the wise to turn back. The herders carry charms and perform rituals passed down by their ancestors in hopes of keeping the demon satisfied, but no charm can fully protect someone who ignores the mountain's rules. The demon thrives on disrespect and fear, and its legend is woven into every aspect of life in the highlands. Even when the villagers are far below in their yurts tending livestock, the knowledge of the demon is never far from their thoughts. It is a living story that teaches vigilance and reverence. The mountain demon is not just a figure of horror, but a symbol of the untamed world, a reminder that humans are visitors in places far older and wilder than themselves. Travelers who climb the peaks without understanding risk becoming part of the stories themselves. Some are warned by dreams, in which the demon appears a shadowy figure with eyes like fire and teeth like jagged stone. They awaken with an overwhelming sense of dread, and often abandon their journey for their own safety. Others ignore the warnings, believing courage alone will shield them. But the mountains do not bend to human will, and arrogance is always punished. The herders tell of one man who chased a lost yak too far into the cliffs and vanished. He was strong and clever, and yet he never returned. The wind carried his cries for a time, and then silence enveloped the valley. The villagers knew without seeing that the demon had claimed him as a warning to others who might underestimate the peril of the peaks. These stories are told not to frighten children, but to instill a deep understanding that the mountains have rules that are not written anywhere, but are felt by those who listen carefully. The demon legend is part of the identity of the people living in these highlands, a story that binds generations and connects them to the wild earth around them. Even those who never venture into the higher reaches respect the warning and honor the unseen guardian that watches over the peaks. It is a living myth that continues to evolve with every telling and every encounter. And for the people of Mongolia, the mountains are never empty, and silence is never innocent. The story of the mountain demon extends beyond the tales of missing travelers and vanished herders, for it is said that even the animals sense its presence. The flocks of sheep and goats that graze on the lower slopes often behave strangely when the demon is near. They huddle together and refuse to move, as though an invisible force presses down upon them. Wolves and birds avoid certain cliffs and valleys, and even the wind seems to shift to carry the scent of danger. Locals know that when the air grows heavy and the mountains fall silent, it is not nature alone but the demon asserting its domain. Travelers who ignore these signs are often doomed, for the demon's power lies in subtlety. It does not strike with the fury of a storm. Immediately, instead, it observes, testing patience and courage until the time is right. Those who wander too far without knowledge feel an unease in their bones, a prickling sensation on the skin that cannot be explained. At night, when the snow falls thick and the stars disappear behind clouds, the demon is said to move freely across ridges and peaks. Its presence is like a shadow sliding over the land, leaving fear and uncertainty behind. The villagers describe dreams that precede real encounters, visions of glowing eyes and twisted shapes that warn the dreamer to turn back or to approach with utmost respect. Some heed these warnings and retreat safely, while others dismiss them, believing that rationality will shield them from harm. The demon, however, is not swayed by human logic. It feeds on overconfidence and arrogance and will manipulate perceptions, creating illusions that appear more real than reality itself. Herders recount instances when a familiar path seemed to twist into a maze, and landmarks appeared where none existed, leading them in circles and trapping them in the highlands for days. Some were saved by sheer luck or by the intervention of elders who performed rituals to appease the unseen guardian. The rituals vary, but all involve offerings of respect and acknowledgement that the land is not human territory. Some elders carry small talismans carved from stone and wood imbued with protective symbols. They place these at key points along trails and pass them to travelers who journey into dangerous areas. These charms are believed to pacify the demon, or at least warn it that the traveler comes with humility and reverence. Those who ignore such practices often encounter phenomena that defy explanation. Strange sounds in the wind, footsteps in the snow that vanish when approached, shadows that flicker just beyond the corner of the eye. The villagers understand these as messages, not mere tricks, for they have learned to read the mountain and its moods. Over time, the legend has grown to include tales of the demon interacting directly with humans. Some say it can mimic voices calling loved ones from the distance, luring wanderers away from safety. Others claim it can appear as a figure of light or shadow moving gracefully across the snow, daring travelers to follow. Yet the most common encounters involve a sense of being watched, a feeling that eyes unseen are tracking every step. Those who experience it describe a cold that penetrates, the bones of pressure on the chest, and an overwhelming sense of isolation. The demon is patient, waiting for fear to settle in the mind and for uncertainty to take hold before revealing itself fully. Travelers sometimes awaken from sleep in yurts, feeling the presence of something outside watching them. They report hearing the wind shaped into whispers, calling names, and footsteps pacing along the edge of the campfire light. None of these events leave traces, and yet the fear is real enough. to alter behavior for days or weeks after returning to safety. The elders emphasize that understanding the mountain is key to survival, and that courage must be tempered with respect. Stories are passed down orally from one generation to the next, and each retelling contains warnings and lessons about humility and the limits of human power. The demon legend has survived for centuries, not only because it frightens, but because it teaches people how to live in harmony with a dangerous and unpredictable environment. There is also a spiritual element to the tale. For many Mongolians, the mountains are sacred and inhabited by spirits that guard the land and the animals. The demon is one of these spirits, or perhaps a corrupted guardian, that exacts a price from those who trespass without awareness. Offerings of milk or grains are left at high passes and small shrines dot the trails, at points considered dangerous. Travelers and herders alike may chant prayers or recite ancient words to ensure protection during long treks. The legend permeates daily life and influences decisions about where to graze animals, when to travel, and how to behave in the highlands. It is a living cultural memory that binds the community to the mountains and to one another. Even outsiders who have spent time in the highlands speak of the weight of history and superstition that surrounds them and the sense that the landscape itself is alive and aware. The mountain demon legend is not merely a ghost story. It is a complex narrative about survival, respect, and the unseen forces that govern life in extreme landscapes. It reminds people that courage is not just about facing danger, but about recognizing limits and honoring the mysteries that cannot be controlled. The stories continue to evolve as each new generation interprets encounters and retellings, adding their own experiences to the myth. Yet the core warning remains the same. The mountains are alive, and the demon watches those who wander carelessly. The presence of this unseen entity shapes behavior, instills caution, and preserves the fragile balance between humans and the powerful, untamed world surrounding them. It is this combination of fear, reverence, and cultural memory that has ensured the mountain demon remains an enduring and formidable figure in Mongolian folklore. The mountain demon's legend is woven into the very fabric of the herders' daily lives, and it shapes their routines in ways that outsiders rarely notice. Every path taken in the highlands is chosen with an understanding of where danger might lurk and which ridges are safer than others. The elders often tell of old travelers who ignored these lessons and disappeared, leaving behind only footprints that led to nowhere. The demon is said to follow those who show carelessness in their steps, or arrogance in their hearts, and it punishes not out of malice but as a guardian, ensuring that respect is maintained. Over time, the herders have learned to interpret subtle signs in the environment, a sudden change in wind direction, the behavior of animals, and unnatural stillness in the air. All are considered warnings of the demon's presence. When these signs appear, even the most seasoned traveler pauses to reconsider the journey ahead and often returns home rather than risk further exposure. The legends speak of those who ventured too far and became trapped in hallucinations induced by the demon. Images of loved ones appear on the snow, sometimes beckoning with outstretched hands, sometimes warning with gestures impossible to decipher. Herders recount that some men and women spent days following such visions only to find themselves at the edge of cliffs or in areas where the snow was treacherous. The demon's tricks are not random. It exploits fear, uncertainty, and desire, creating a psychological maze as dangerous as the physical one. The elders stress that only those who combine courage with humility can hope to survive the higher reaches of the mountains, and even they must remain vigilant, for the demon tests perseverance and wisdom as much as physical strength. There are stories of travelers who thought themselves clever enough to trick the demon, yet found their tricks turned against them. A man once tried to leave false tracks leading away from his camp, believing the demon would be misled. But the next morning he awoke surrounded by footprints encircling him, and a low growl emanating from the cliffs above. It was a warning that even cunning cannot outwit a force older than humanity. The villagers tell of rituals performed during particularly harsh winters when the snowstorms seem unnatural, and the cold penetrates deeper than usual. Offerings are made at sacred stones or hidden shrines, sometimes left by ancestors who first settled the valleys. The rituals are simple gestures of acknowledgement: a poured cup of fermented mare's milk, a carved symbol pressed into the snow, or an incantation whispered into the wind. Each act is intended to show that humans recognize the power of the mountain and its guardian. In some accounts, the demon is described not only as a terrifying entity, but also as a teacher and a judge. Its tests are sometimes subtle, requiring patience and observation rather than confrontation. A shepherd might notice that a path is slightly altered by rocks or fallen branches and recognize it as a warning to turn back. A traveler may hear a voice in the wind and choose to follow it or not, depending on their wisdom and intuition. The outcomes of these choices are said to be influenced by the demon, but guided by the natural order and respect for the land. Many of the stories include encounters with other supernatural elements believed to be associated with the demon spirits that appear as flickering lights in the distance, mysterious shadows moving with intent or sudden temperature, changes that cannot be explained scientifically. In each case, the villagers understand these as communications from the mountain, reminding them that their presence is temporary and that humility is paramount. The folklore surrounding the demon also emphasizes the importance of community. Each herder knows that traveling alone without informing neighbors is risky, not only because of natural hazards, but because the demon is thought to prey more easily on isolated individuals. Families often journey together, and children are taught from an early age to recognize warning signs and to obey the rules passed down through generations. Even storytelling sessions around the fire carry lessons about vigilance, respect, and survival. These stories are not mere entertainment. They are practical guidance encoded in narrative form. The mountain demon legend also intersects with spiritual beliefs rooted in shamanic practices. Shamanic rituals are performed to communicate with the mountain spirits and to seek permission or protection before venturing into dangerous areas. Shamans are believed to possess the knowledge of how to navigate the demon's influence and how to interpret its subtle signals. Their guidance is respected because it combines cultural memory, spiritual understanding, and intimate knowledge of the highlands. One tale recounts how a shaman once led a group of travelers through a thick fog where the demon's presence was palpable. He used chants and symbolic gestures to guide them safely, and warned that one wrong step or a moment of arrogance could provoke the demon. The travelers emerged unscathed, and the experience became part of the living oral tradition, reinforcing the lessons of humility, caution, and reverence. The mountain demon legend remains an integral part of Mongolian identity in these regions. It represents not just fear, but also the relationship between humans and the forces of nature, the understanding that some elements of the world are beyond human control and must be approached with respect. The stories endure because they convey both cultural values and survival knowledge, and because the mountains themselves continue to inspire awe and trepidation. They serve as reminders that the highlands are alive not merely with wildlife and weather, but with spirits and forces that shape life in ways that cannot always be understood by human reason or modern science. The demon is a symbol of the untamed world and the invisible rules that govern it, and its presence is felt in every ridge, valley, and peak stretching across the vast Mongolian landscape. As the legend of the mountain demon persists, the stories grow richer with each generation, adding details that reflect both the dangers of the highlands and the lessons of respect the villagers have learned over centuries. It is said that the demon has a presence that stretches across the peaks and valleys, but it is rarely seen directly. Instead, it is sensed through subtle signs: the unnatural quiet of a valley, the restless movement of animals, and the sudden chill that creeps into the bones of travelers. When the wind rises without cause and carries faint whispers, it is a warning not to continue. Yet many travelers, driven by curiosity or disbelief, choose to ignore these signs, believing themselves immune to the powers that have haunted generations before them. They soon discover that the demon's influence is inescapable, for it can manipulate the mind, making familiar paths unfamiliar and turning safety into peril. Those who wander too far without acknowledging the power of the mountains often experience visions of figures that appear human at first, but dissolve into shadows or flickering lights before their eyes. Some report hearing voices calling them by name, beckoning them toward cliffs or deep snowdrifts. The terror is not only in what they see but in the realization that their perceptions cannot be trusted, and that the mountains themselves may be complicit in the deception. The elders insist that these encounters are tests meant to teach humility and reinforce the rules of survival that have protected the people for centuries. Travelers who succeed in navigating these challenges do so by remaining calm, observant, and respectful, acknowledging the presence of forces they cannot see, and following the guidance of experience and ritual. Those who fail succumb to fear and confusion, sometimes wandering until they are lost for days or worse, never returning. The stories recount families who lost loved ones to the peaks, emphasizing that the demon does not discriminate between strangers and locals. It simply maintains the order of the mountains and the safety of those who respect its domain. Some narratives describe the demon appearing in dreams before manifesting in reality, offering warnings or guidance to those who listen carefully. The dreams are vivid, often filled with landscapes that mirror the highlands but twisted with danger. The dreamer may encounter glowing eyes in the shadows or hear laughter that echoes without source. These premonitions are considered gifts for those wise enough to heed them but ignored at great risk. In addition to guiding and warning, the demon is also believed to exact punishment for greed and disrespect. Tales tell of travelers who tried to steal sacred stones from shrines or hunt without permission, and who faced supernatural consequences, sometimes through accidents or sudden illnesses. The punishment is not arbitrary. It reflects the principle that the mountains and their guardian demand balance, and that human arrogance disrupts the natural order. Over time, these experiences have created a culture of vigilance. The people learn early to read subtle cues and respect boundaries, even when no one else is watching. The mountain demon is a teacher of patience, caution, and humility, and its lessons are embedded in the landscape itself. One of the most enduring aspects of the legend is the way it emphasizes community safety. Groups of travelers moving together and looking out for one another ensure that no individual faces the full force of the mountains alone. Children are instructed in games and stories that reinforce awareness and observation, teaching them to notice unnatural patterns in the snow, the behavior of animals, and the feel of the wind on the skin. These exercises are practical as well as cultural, instilling a sense of the unseen while maintaining the oral tradition of the demon's legend. Shamans play a vital role in mediating interactions with the mountain demon, offering guidance to travelers and performing rituals when omens indicate heightened danger. They may leave offerings at high passes or chant protective incantations in order to calm the spirit or gain its favor. The interplay of ritual storytelling and lived experience reinforces the belief that humans are visitors in a landscape older and wiser than themselves. Each telling of the demon legend builds upon these experiences, adding new details reflecting contemporary encounters. The shifting behavior of animals changes in climate or new disappearances. The core principle, however, remains unchanged. The mountains are alive. The demon watches, and respect is paramount. Even in the present day, modern explorers and trekkers report feelings of being observed or led astray, and many turn back upon sensing the invisible presence. Echoes of the old stories persist as warnings to those who might underestimate the raw power of the highlands. The demon legend also shapes practical decisions about when to travel and which paths to take. Herders avoid certain passes during harsh winters, believing the demon's anger is stronger when the snow is heavy or the wind is fierce. Young travelers are cautioned against moving at night or ignoring natural cues, as the demon is said to be most active in darkness and fog. These cultural habits serve both as safety measures and as an embodiment of centuries of lived wisdom passed down orally through storytelling, observation, and ritual. The mountain demon is therefore both a guardian and a guide, a symbol of the untamed world that surrounds humanity, a reminder that some forces cannot be mastered, only respected. The mountain demon is not only feared for its power to confuse and punish, but also revered as an integral part of the Mongolian highlands. It is a force that demands attention, respect, and understanding. The elders describe how even the most seasoned herders can feel its presence in ways that are subtle yet undeniable. A sudden pause in the wind, a flock of sheep stopping mid-step, a shadow stretching unnaturally across the snow. These are all signs that the demon is near, and that humans must tread carefully. Travelers who ignore these signs often find themselves caught in situations that defy explanation. Paths they thought familiar shift beneath their feet, landmarks appear or vanish, and the snow itself seems to conspire against them. Some describe hearing their own name whispered in the wind, or seeing fleeting figures dart across the cliffs that vanish the moment they try to focus. The demon's power is as psychological as it is supernatural, manipulating fear and perception to teach lessons about caution, patience, and humility. Those who approach the mountains with arrogance or disregard for tradition often find themselves trapped in illusions that can last hours or even days, while those who show respect and attentiveness navigate safely. It is said that the demon observes not only the actions of humans but also their intentions. Those who seek to exploit the land or challenge the balance are tested more severely than those who travel with humility and purpose. In this way, the mountain demon serves as both guardian and judge, maintaining a delicate equilibrium between the people and the wild terrain. The legend extends beyond human encounters to the animals that inhabit the highlands. Sheep-goats, yaks, and even wolves behave strangely in certain valleys, sensing the demon's presence in ways that humans cannot fully comprehend. A flock may refuse to move, or a lone animal may flee without reason. These occurrences are taken seriously by the herders, as they indicate areas of heightened supernatural activity. Observing these patterns is considered essential knowledge for anyone spending time in the mountains, as it can mean the difference between a safe journey and disaster. Many of the stories involve travelers being guided or warned by visions of light or shadow. The phenomenon is unpredictable and requires intuition and courage to interpret correctly. Some travelers see the form of a loved one calling them back to safety. Others perceive threatening figures meant to test their resolve. The outcome depends largely on the traveler's response, whether they act with fear impulsively or with calm respect and careful observation. The demon is said to teach these lessons through repeated encounters and variations of the same themes, ensuring that wisdom is earned rather than given freely. There are also accounts of encounters with other supernatural entities believed to be connected to the demon spirits that appear as luminous orbs swirling in the air or eerie sounds that seem to come from nowhere. These experiences reinforce the understanding that the highlands are alive with forces that cannot be tamed by human will alone. Shamans have long served as intermediaries, interpreting signs, the meaning of dreams, and the patterns of the mountains to ensure that travelers understand and respect the unseen forces. Their guidance often determines the success of an expedition, as they provide advice on when to move, where to rest, and how to perform rituals that honor the mountain spirits. These practices have persisted for centuries and continue to shape the behavior of people living in or passing through the highlands. The mountain demon legend is also a teaching tool for young herders, instructing them in observation, awareness, and respect for nature. It is through stories, games, and rituals that children learn to notice subtle changes in their environment, understand the importance of communal vigilance, and appreciate the balance between courage and caution. The narratives surrounding the demon combine fear, wonder, and practical knowledge, creating a cultural framework that preserves both life and tradition. Travelers who ignore these lessons risk not only their own safety but the well-being of their companions and animals, for the demon's presence affects all living beings in its domain. It is a constant reminder that human beings are visitors in a land far older and more powerful than themselves. Over time, the mountain demon has become more than a tale of fear. It embodies the collective memory of the people, the wisdom accumulated through generations of living in harmony with a harsh and unpredictable landscape. Every encounter, every observation, every ritual performed in its honor reinforces the cultural identity of the highlands, ensuring that the lessons of humility, respect, and vigilance endure, even as times change. The legend persists because it is not only a story of terror, but a story of coexistence, a narrative that teaches humans to recognize forces beyond their control, to honor the land, and to understand that courage without wisdom and respect can lead to disaster. The mountain demon remains a symbol of the untamed wilderness, a guardian of balance and a teacher whose lessons are written into the very stone, snow, and wind of the Mongolian peaks. Those who venture into these heights do so, knowing that the demon watches, listens, and waits, testing their judgment, character, and respect for the natural world. The mountain demon's influence stretches beyond individual encounters, shaping the rhythms of life in the highlands and the decisions of communities who dwell there. Families plan their herding routes according to areas believed to be less active, with supernatural presence, and festivals and rituals are often timed to coincide with periods when the demon is considered more or less vigilant. The elders teach that the mountains themselves are sentient and that the demon acts as a mediator between humans and the natural forces of the highlands. Those who fail to recognize these rhythms risk more than physical danger. They risk disturbing the delicate balance that governs life in these extreme landscapes. Travelers often report that, even with maps and compasses, the terrain feels alive as if it shifts to challenge or guide them. Paths that once seemed straightforward twist and loop. Unexpectedly, snowdrifts appear in places where they had never fallen before, and rocks seem to tumble without cause. The mountain demon is said to orchestrate these phenomena, testing awareness and rewarding attentiveness. Those who maintain respect and humility often find that obstacles disappear or lead them to safety, while those who act with arrogance or disregard experience compounding confusion and danger. Stories are full of travelers who believe themselves clever enough to evade or trick the demon, only to be confronted with situations that outmatched their reasoning. They may follow a path they believe will lead home, but find themselves circling the same ridge multiple times, or encountering a deep ravine where none existed before. The psychological strain of these experiences can be as intense as the physical danger, inducing fear, disorientation, and panic, which the demon exploits to teach patience and vigilance. Herders recount that some travelers succumb not to injury or exposure, but to the mental toll of losing confidence in their senses and perceptions. The mountain demon legend therefore serves as a practical guide for mental preparedness, emphasizing observation, awareness, and decision-making under uncertainty. The folklore also stresses moral conduct. Greed, arrogance, or disrespect are punished through direct or indirect encounters with the demon. For example, stories tell of hunters who ignored warnings and hunted sacred animals, or removed stones from ancient shrines, and who suffered accidents or vanished entirely. The consequence is not seen as random cruelty but as a natural enforcement of balance and respect. The demon operates on principles older than human law, reinforcing ethical behavior by instilling caution, reverence, and communal responsibility. It is also said that the demon interacts differently depending on the individual personality and intentions. Travelers who demonstrate humility, patience, and respect may receive subtle guidance to navigate safely, while those whose hearts are driven by selfish motives or disregard are ensnared in illusions or dangers. The subtleties of these interactions are interpreted through careful observation, dreams, and guidance from shamans. Many accounts describe premonitions or dreams in which the demon appears offering cryptic advice or warnings. These experiences are highly regarded and taken seriously, as they often correlate with actual events in the mountains. The ability to interpret and act upon such guidance is considered a mark of wisdom and spiritual attunement. Communities in the highlands rely on collective knowledge and oral tradition to educate young herders about these phenomena. They are taught to read signs in the environment, the behavior of animals, the feel of the wind and snow, and the presence of subtle changes that might indicate danger or supernatural observation. Such education is as important as learning to herd livestock or navigate terrain. The mountain demon legend is therefore deeply integrated into cultural identity, serving as a bridge between survival skills, spiritual understanding, and moral education. Even modern travelers report an inexplicable sense of presence or influence as they navigate the highlands, reflecting the enduring power of the legend and the deep respect the landscape commands. It is this combination of fear, reverence, and practical knowledge that ensures the legend's survival and relevance in contemporary times. The mountain demon is more than a ghost story. It is a guide, a guardian, and a teacher that shapes human behavior and preserves harmony between people and the untamed wilderness. Every encounter reinforces the understanding that the mountains are alive with forces beyond human comprehension, and that survival requires not just courage but humility, respect, and awareness. The legend continues to evolve with new experiences, but its core message remains clear. The highlands belong first to nature and its spirits, and only second to the humans who inhabit them. The mountain demon's presence is felt not only in direct encounters but also in the stories that circulate within villages and settlements across the highlands. These stories are told around fires during long winters and while tending herds in the valleys, and they serve to reinforce respect, caution, and cultural continuity. Each tale carries lessons about observation, humility, and understanding the power of forces that cannot be seen or controlled. Travelers who venture into the highlands are advised to listen carefully to these accounts, for they contain practical guidance disguised as folklore. The demon is believed to test not only physical bravery, but also emotional and mental resilience. Those who panic easily or act impulsively are said to fall prey to its tricks, while those who remain calm and attentive navigate safely. The legends describe numerous ways in which the demon can influence perception, creating illusions that mislead or confuse. The simplest trick may involve shifting shadows and faint whispers that lead a traveler off course. The more complex manipulations involve visions of familiar people or places that never truly existed. These encounters are intended to teach attentiveness, patience, and the importance of discernment. The elders emphasize that recognizing the signs of the demon is critical to survival, and that one must never underestimate the intelligence and patience of this entity. In addition to guiding or testing individuals, the mountain demon is believed to maintain the balance of the ecosystem. The animals of the highlands sense its presence and act accordingly. Flocks of sheep may freeze in place as if sensing danger. Birds may avoid certain cliffs, and even predators like wolves alter their hunting patterns. The demon's influence ensures that humans remain respectful of the landscape and that ecological harmony is preserved. The stories also highlight the spiritual dimension of the demon. Many believe it is a guardian spirit connected to the mountains who enforces the unwritten rules that govern life in these remote areas. Shamans play an essential role in mediating between humans and the mountain demon, performing rituals to appease it, interpret omens, and provide guidance for travelers. Their knowledge of the landscape, the spirits, and the demon's patterns is considered invaluable, and their counsel is sought for critical journeys or dangerous ventures. These practices underscore the interconnectedness of the physical, mental, and spiritual realms within Mongolian culture. The mountain demon legend also instills a sense of community responsibility. Young herders are taught that venturing alone without informing others is dangerous, and that sharing knowledge and guidance can protect everyone. Groups traveling together are more likely to navigate safely because each person observes and responds to environmental cues and supernatural signs. This collective awareness strengthens social bonds and reinforces cultural continuity. Over centuries, the legend has evolved, incorporating new encounters and experiences, each retelling adding depth and nuance, but the core themes remain constant. The mountains are alive, the demon watches, and respect is paramount. Even in modern times, explorers and trekkers report feelings of being observed or guided by an unseen presence, and many adjust their plans or retreat upon sensing the weight of the highlands. The legend's endurance reflects not only fear of a supernatural entity, but also the practical wisdom embedded in the stories, recognizing that humans are visitors in a land older and wilder than themselves. The mountain demon continues to serve as a teacher of humility, vigilance, and respect, illustrating the delicate balance between human ambition and the power of the natural world. The narratives ensure that every generation internalizes lessons about navigating the terrain, understanding animal behavior, respecting the spiritual dimension of the landscape, and maintaining moral conduct. By embedding these teachings within compelling stories, the elders guarantee that the legend remains a living guide through which practical survival knowledge and cultural values are transmitted. The mountain demon is therefore not only a figure of terror, but a symbol of the intricate relationship between humans, the environment, and the unseen forces that govern existence in the highlands. Its enduring presence shapes behavior, influences decision-making, preserves ecological balance, and maintains cultural identity across generations. For those who enter the mountains with humility, awareness, and respect, the legend of the demon becomes a partner and guide, rather than merely a source of fear. The mountain demon's legend reaches its culmination in the understanding that life in the highlands is inseparable from the unseen forces that govern it. Travelers and herders alike learn that survival depends not only on physical endurance and skill, but also on the ability to perceive subtle signals from the environment and respond with humility. The demon embodies the principle that humans are not masters of the mountains, but temporary guests whose actions carry consequences. The stories emphasize that fear is not the enemy, but a tool to sharpen awareness and reinforce caution. Each encounter described in the tales, whether it involves strange sounds, footprints that vanish in the snow, or fleeting shadows, serves to remind humans that the landscape is alive with intelligence and memory. The elders speak of rituals and offerings performed at critical passes and sacred shrines, gestures that honor the mountain and the demon, ensuring protection and demonstrating respect. Such rituals involve chant, symbolic carvings, or the presentation of food and drink to acknowledge the unseen forces and to maintain balance. Those who heed these practices report feeling guided and protected during dangerous journeys, while those who ignore them often experience disorientation, misfortune, or disappearance. The legends also highlight the psychological dimensions of the demon's influence, teaching travelers to remain calm and to trust observation and instinct over panic and impulse. The lessons extend to moral behavior, emphasizing the importance of respect, integrity, and humility in interactions with both the environment and other humans. Acts of greed, arrogance, or disrespect are often met with consequences orchestrated by the demon, demonstrating that ethical conduct is inseparable from survival. The mountain demon's presence is felt across all aspects of life in the highlands, shaping the rhythms of travel, herding, and daily routines. It ensures that humans remain connected to the natural and spiritual dimensions of their world, and reinforces the understanding that every choice has impact on the delicate balance of the ecosystem and the community. The oral tradition preserves these lessons through storytelling, games, and mentorship, embedding them in the minds of young herders and travelers alike, so that knowledge of the mountains and its guardian is transmitted across generations. Modern accounts continue to echo the ancient warnings. Explorers and trekkers report inexplicable phenomena and a persistent sense of being watched, reinforcing the enduring power of the legend and the respect it commands. Even as times change and technology advances, the highlands remain a realm where humility and attentiveness determine safety and wisdom guides action. The mountain demon is therefore more than a supernatural being. It is a symbol of the intricate relationship between humans, the environment, and the spiritual forces that govern existence in remote landscapes. It teaches the principles of survival, respect, and moral conduct in ways that are both practical and profound. Its legend binds communities together, provides guidance for navigating challenges, and preserves a cultural memory that honors the power of nature and the necessity of coexistence. Those who enter the mountains carry not only provisions and knowledge, but also the awareness that the demon watches, tests, and guides them. Each step is taken with respect for the unseen, and every decision reflects lessons learned over centuries of observation, experience, and storytelling. The mountain demon endures as a timeless guardian, a teacher, and a reminder that the highlands are alive with forces far older and wiser than humanity, and that the greatest wisdom comes from listening, observing, and walking humbly in the presence of the vast untamed world.